Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword when you actually have the courage and guts to come out and say, look at this phenomenal paranormal evidence that's captured, and you don't have the backbone to kind of stick with it and stand up to the ridicule that you could potentially get.
Well, the people that do share are the people who are strong enough not to really give a rip what other people's opinions are.
Right.
They just bring forth the evidence, and this is what I have. Like it or mock it, this is still what I have. I see people do that all the time. And I don't understand, I guess, why it's a hardship. There's some great stuff out there.
Absolutely. And then there's some situations like that we have as well where about 95% of our evidence stays between us and our clients at our client's request.
Yes, that's a given.
So there are so many people that just want to put stuff on YouTube and Facebook just to get as much notoriety as they can about it. And we only release stuff on our Facebook or YouTube channel that our clients have requested us to or have given us permission to.
Right.
So, it's a double-edged sword when we're talking one side and others are like, oh, well, you don't have 4 million videos or 10 million followers on Facebook or YouTube, or that's insignificant to us. The point of it is protecting our clients' integrity, the evidence between them, their confidentiality. But at the same time, we need to do more of this along with others to try to get more evidence out there so that we can all share and grow from it.
Well, I agree. I'll be honest, I am the world's worst on sharing anything because if I'm doing a residential, that evidence comes first. And then if I've done something else, like, on my own, then sometimes that stays locked in the cat cave forever. It depends on the timing. But I don't very often in fact, I don't think I've ever put, except maybe 3 videos up on YouTube. One of them I mistakenly marked private because it was my first time doing that, and I can't even see it. So I'm not sure what to do about that, but it's a learning curve. And that was like 4 years ago. But
Right.
The other was evidence that I got at public investigations at locations that I know what I saw, and I knew they were haunted. But do you think that, mine is obviously user issues, but for a lot of people, it's just, like you said, the fear of ridicule. We need to be more supportive. How do you propose getting to that point? And I'm going to interrupt myself here and say that we've got about 2 minutes until our break, but I am interested. We can always come back to it if we need to, but how do you propose getting people to cross that bridge or take that step?
Well, we certainly do our best, and it falls back to something that a young lady is actually just brought up to me, who's listening to the program right now, and she brought up that unfortunately most of the time, when it comes to science and religion, so many people see them as verse each other, and I think that has to do with what you're saying as well, because they either feel shamed by one or because the other won't explain it, so that they won't share, because that concept of shame is a vicious thing. But just understanding that whichever side of it you believe, there's no shame in having your belief system. Everybody can get on Facebook and talk about their belief system, but when it comes to personal experiences being one-on-one, it seems different. It's a different emotional connection.
Yes.
And if we just realize that it's just all about, I could state it, I could overstate it and say it's about like pro-social behavior and things, but really it just comes down to wanting true conversation, being open and honest when it's time to have said conversation. There are plenty of things that we can talk about that don't make any sense. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be able to talk about them.
You're right.
Openly, passionately. And, it wasn't all that long ago that there was things that are now scientific methodology that people were, I'll sound really bad when I say this, people were burned at the stake for figuring things out once upon a day.
Yes, they were. And we're going to come back to that because we are time for our first break. And we'll be back in about 3 minutes.
You are listening to WPHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
And we are back. You are listening to Fate Radio. I am Kat Hobson, your host, and I am joined tonight by Greg Pollitt and Noah Maisel. And we are discussing, and I bet I did not say that right. I've only done it 2,000 times. But we are discussing paranormal evidence and the sharing of such and trying to develop some scientific methodologies that are going to stand up to repetitive testing. And how difficult that is actually to achieve. And I apologize for having to interrupt you to go to break, but can we pick that back up?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's obviously that's one I could talk about for a while, but we've even spoken to, heck, I'll just say it, religious leaders that aren't allowed to talk about their true beliefs because the people above them tell them that these aren't subjects to be discussed with the public, or, these are subjects to be hidden. And it's kind of sad. And I won't throw any names under the bus, but we've talked to plenty that are there to help, plenty that are there that don't know how to help, and plenty that have shown up that don't know what they're doing and make it worse. And unfortunately, some of these people are the ones that are talking to the public, giving them false instructions or false hope, or putting them in a shameful state for thinking that they've gone through an experience, or something even worse than just a limited experience. I mean, we've dealt with, what I would consider to be some of the worst of the worst. And it will leave a stigma to it, almost stain that person's soul, that if they ever experience something like that, they're not allowed to talk about it again because their deacon or padre of some sort said that they didn't. And I don't mean to get off on such a religious kick, and then at the exact same time, those in the scientific school of thought that will speak about it all day and not speak about one of the most simple concepts of energy. You're not creating it, not getting rid of it. And they'll try to, take it to a more complicated level, and I could too. But if you say that we exist, then you're saying paranormal energy exists. And considering that on the other side of it, pretty much every religious text in history written in this country or the many, many others that so many people seem to forget, in somewhere, some form or fashion, pretty much all of them speak of something that many would consider to be different terms of a ghost. But
Absolutely,
then when it comes then when it comes to their neighbor, their kid, or themselves hearing something or experience something, they get so scared of that term and they won't bring it up. And to me, that's just sad that people have to live in the falsity of acting like it doesn't exist. To me, and you've heard me say this before, so I'll keep it going, it has been proven so many times that I've lost track. And that's just by us, and that's not speaking of the hundreds of others, thousands of others that have absolutely proven it.
Yes.
Scientifically proven it. But yet, even though it's been proven, it's still not proven.
Pseudoscience, as it were.
They'll call it pseudoscience when, many, many years ago, many things that were not pseudoscience would be called that. And I think we're sort of stuck in that when it comes to this. It has been. Scientific methodology has been done. All steps. The proof has been done. But yet we still aren't allowed to say it. Or if I say what I just said, I can't back it up, even though I can and have.
Yes. And that's what's so frustrating, because when someone close to me was passing, we had a conversation in which I said, if there's any way, you know what I do, that you could just let me know you're okay. And they did. And it was in an astounding short period of time, because I've always thought that there was like a processing center or something where you would have to go and get approval, I guess, to communicate with the living. But it was within hours after crossing. So that was a shock. And yet people just kind of mock that, especially people who are like, scientists. It just is so frustrating.
Yeah, mainstream science wants it to be a repetition or created in a sterile environment. And unfortunately, Casper, the friendly and unfriendly ghosts, do not operate on a light switch. So for us ever to understand what measurements, what ingredients for that perfect storm, that perfect tornado that we can't even predict that's going to happen yet, but to get the right ingredients to where a spirit of a person or an entity that's never been on this earth to be repeatedly communicated with over and over and over in a sterile environment based on scientific standards is impossible when Group A, Group B, Group C, and all the way through Z are doing the same thing but different things, and there's no standardization to experiment it from on. So it's horrible that we're at that point, but I mean, that's where it has to go.
Well, it has to go to journaling. It has to do journaling. It has to be, and it is, I'm sorry, that is going to have to be repetitive testing. Utilizing the same experiments with the same equipment, with the same settings, and achieving the same results. That's the only way this is going to be considered a science. So you do have to get that standard of testing done. And while they don't always respond, they never respond when you want them to. But if you explain what you're doing and why, There are a lot of spirits